The public portion, a reminder to keep it to 3 minutes and 1 appearance per individual. We will have a second public portion a little bit later on this evening. At this point in time, does anybody want to speak on any issue? Please raise your hand. Yes, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
Bob Schultz, Randolph. I was wondering if you found out what other gases the monitors detect. That was asked at the last meeting.
What other gases?
The monitors.
The outside monitors, not the... Pardon? I thought there was a release on the wasn't there a memo that went on website?
We did post. Are you talking about what the monitors, the monitor alert system monitors? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, we know they detect hydrogen sulfide. That's obvious, and sulfur dioxide. But it's been said by UMCOT that they detect other compounds, and I asked last meeting what those were, and you said you were going to find out. And
we posted the last thing that we got from UMCOT on that. Okay.
Was that a recent post, or was
No, that was a couple of weeks ago, Bob. So I'll check on that. I wasn't clear on that.
I'll follow up.
And I saw that you had posted the MLCOT report, and it said most spike events were due to the electrical malfunctioning of the equipment. They're going to redo the electrical and stuff.
Yeah, the spikes.
Right. But the key word in that was most. So what happened with the other ones, and what were the other ones?
Well, I think the report spoke for itself on that, Bob. So, and since they've done the repairs on that, we haven't had any of those spikes. Since they've done the equipment and the electrical work, we haven't had any since then. So we've been very appreciative of that, that's for sure.
And as I think we brought up at the last meeting, that we wanted to find out definitively what's going on to the best of our ability. Right now, a lot of things have been explained through this part of the process, but it's an ongoing process. We're never going to stop trying to figure out, exactly what's going on.
Right, and it said most, but we all are still smelling it out there. That's proven. I've looked at the DEP records. There's been calls in there from the last month. I know people here have smelled it as well. I smelled it the other day when I was down on Canal Street. I think it was actually Marion that had smelt it. And I actually took a ride from Randolph all the way up just to see, if I smelt it. And I actually did. And that was right on Canal Street, but the monitors weren't really catching anything on there. So, very distinct smell, it was there. And I know nobody really is in that area from you guys' perspective that's going to go there and go check it out, but it's still there. So the DEP saying that they eliminated the gases that are coming out of there is a false statement. And you guys should be very concerned because and frankly, I think you're, excuse me, very short-sighted because you guys and the DEP are only worried about the hydrogen sulfide and not the other gases, not the water, because water testing hasn't been done since the 3rd of January of 2013. And that was off of your site. And I checked, I went through all the stuff, and that was the last time that I had seen it. And the soil as well. And if you saw the news today, there was a report that came out of Coneville North that there is a cancer-causing agent coming out of that landfill now and is in the wells.
Thank you, Bob. Anybody else in the public wish to be heard? Please raise your hand. See? Yes, sir.
Bill Morocco, Lazarus Drive in Ledgewood. Question I have, I just have to refresh my memory. I reviewed the last 2 updates the DEP had given us, and I'm starting to hear a lot of rumors. Maybe you could clarify. But according to these updates, there was supposed to be a phase 3 of the project, which was implementation of a long-term treatment system to replace the oxidizer. This was supposed to be a less intrusive type of technology. They refer to it as like an iron sponge or a biological process. They said it was going to be designed by October and implemented months afterwards. And what I'm hearing now is they're actually not doing that. They're putting in a bigger oxidizer. Could you clarify what exactly is going on?
I think those are two separate items. The oxidizer is something they had talked about many, many months ago, but not necessarily that of the final phase or whatever, the long-term plan. I haven't heard what their long-term plan is going to be.
Well, the long-term plan is in their update that was from June 2014 and August 15th, 2014.
I don't think it identified exactly what they were going to do with that, though.
Well, it said it was going to be either a biological process or an iron sponge, and it was going to be determined and designed by October of 2014, designed and implemented months thereafter. So my question is, if that's not being done, or it doesn't even seem like it's on the table, why are they putting a bigger oxidizer in? That wasn't in here at all. They had custom designed a system to handle the 2,000 cubic feet per minute. That is supposed to match the capacity of the gas extraction wells that they put in. So my question is, why are they putting in a bigger oxidizer at this point?
I believe that was posted on our website in a response from Ed Putnam a while ago.
It was not.
Okay, we can follow up on that. By the way, they're looking at March for the larger oxidizer at this time. Originally it was supposed to be as early as January. They moved it back.
So does anyone up there know why the larger oxidizer is being installed?
Up there, I don't know, we have to ask them.
So you haven't asked them in all these months?
No, that's not what we're saying. You ask
There was a
anybody
response
up
to
there.
There was a response to that, and it was posted.
It was
Was
posted.
it not?
That's correct.
Yes.
And if it wasn't posted, well, you need to get it posted.
It should be posted.
But again, he asked if anybody up there knew, so I said he'd have to ask them.
No.
I guess what I'm asking is, you know, I'm kind of shocked that no one here knows why they're putting a bigger oxidizer in.
Bill, they gave us a reason at the time. Quite frankly, I've forgotten it already.
Most of it was just the
But I thought it was
ability to burn more.
on the site.
It was to enhance the amount they could burn it at one time.
Extraction.
Yeah,
That was the original thing.
yes.
My understanding is, and I'll be clarified by whatever was posted or whatever the township received, but my understanding was the bigger oxidizer was being brought in so that they could treat the gas faster. That it would accept the bigger volume.
Yeah, that was discussed here, actually.
And posted,
Right.
and posted.
Okay. It just, to me, it seems that they had already put something in that was, I believe, oversized by a factor of 3. And this was supposed to be short-lived. So it doesn't sound like good news to me that they're looking to put something bigger in. And that long-term technology that was supposed to be put in once the levels seem to be at a reasonable amount of generation is off the table. That
We don't
doesn't,
know that it's off the table. We don't know that.
Yeah.
well, delayed,
You're making a
You're making a
statement
lot of
that's not accurate.
assumptions. You're making a lot of assumptions tonight that
it's delayed. That you can't argue with. It's delayed.
we don't even know if it's delayed because we haven't received an update on it yet.
Well, they said it was delayed in one of the news articles.
Look, I don't go by what I read in the newspaper, with all due respect to our press friends that are here, but,
Well, that's all the
we can
information we're
certainly-
getting,
We can certainly ask Ed
Yeah,
Putnam
that's
for
what we should
a
do.
clarification on both of those issues, and we'll be happy to give it to you, but
We'll get
to
it
make
next time.
assumptions and go and make statements like you're making isn't a good thing, because you're not making it based on any fact, other than what you've heard from somebody else that you may have read in the paper, and, you know, you can't, you're a scientist, you know better than that.
No,
May I suggest we just go ahead, but-
No, that's not fair what you're saying, because I'm not making an assumption. I'm just saying that they had stated a certain schedule and they've missed it and haven't given an
That's a big
explanation.
difference than saying they're not doing it. And they said before they weren't doing it.
Well, they're not doing it
What I'm trying
now.
to say to you is, you're making assumptions, you're a scientist, you know better than that. You want to come up and ask a question, that's great, but base it on fact.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rugo. Thank you, Mr. Rocco. Did anybody else in the public wish to be heard on any issue? Please raise your hand. Yes, ma'am. Name and address for the record, please.
If I can reach this. Okay. Marguerite Gargiulo, Lincoln Drive, Flanders. Still don't know. I'm following up on the last conversation on the scrubber. I had called the DEP for some update on this project, and I spoke with one of the lead people over there. I don't know if I should be, I guess it was Mr. Putman.
Ed Putnam.
Putnam?
He's the project manager.
He's the main man, so it's not hearsay. So anyway, as I was asking a couple of the questions that we needed answered, and I wanted to know about the scrubber, And actually, I saw on the Facebook, some of the people thought that the backup on 206 and trucks coming in, they said, oh, the scrubber must be arriving here. So, I mean, people are like waiting and anxious. So I asked about the scrubber, and they said that we're not going to have the scrubber at least for, I thought he said until early spring or mid-spring. There were some problems. I didn't go into the problems. I'm sure they would have been a little technical or whatever their problem was, but it was definitely, there will be a backup. And so that was the one information bit that I was able to obtain for us. The other question, and my statement also to them was, and also to you, is I just want to know how long we are staying with these monitors that are not working at all. It's just a game. These numbers mean nothing. And all this time, people have been exposed. And reading up more and more on what's happening, this H2S and SO2 and chemicals we don't know about, there really are no straight facts. They're giving us facts here that'll keep us quiet. But there's a lot of danger with so much of this exposure. And it's going to come to light that it's been too much. So I want to know from you here, and I think I heard also that the monitors are not capable of doing the job here. So, you know, I want to know when we're going to start demanding protection numbers. And I don't know if the workers are working properly on that mountain, but there are some problems there.
Nobody's suggesting that there's been no issues, but for the most part, the monitors have worked quite well and have been a resource to us, especially in the beginning, in getting those alerts out and everything like that. So I disagree with you a little bit on the monitor side, but it doesn't mean we don't continue to try to strive to make it better.
They have to be replaced. I mean,
Some of them have been.
I think they said they're reviewing it. So, you know, I know that they have to be replaced, and, you know, it's not going to do the job. So why wait? Why can't we get this taken care of? Why have all of this mess here, not later? I mean, this is escaping now while they're doing the work. And if it can save some, you know, exposure, why not? So, you know, I'm kind of asking, or demanding, or whatever way you want to put it, is there a way we can demand from them to do the job a little bit better? And what are we going to do? What's your solution?
We're always trying to make it better and trying to improve what we're monitoring and how we're getting our monitors and how we're getting our information and sharing it with you. But there is no, you know, easy answer at the end of the.
Okay, we can't go on with this exposure here all the way through everywhere.
Mayor, I think one fact that we absolutely know to be true, and that is when you take the data over time that those monitors are collecting on an interval of every 5 minutes, okay? There's hundreds of thousands of results coming across those monitors, and they are 99.5% accurate. So you're talking about inaccuracies of less than 1%.
When they work.
Over time.
When they work, and they had to be shut down when the
No,
numbers were high or
no.
in danger sometimes.
They were never shut down.
They were shut down.
They continually operate. They're not.
The monitor-
They're not. The information you received is wrong.
No.
They were not shut down.
Okay.
Marguerite, I think the report that's been posted on the website from Elmocott, you may have some questions about some of in there, but I think he does a very good job, as Tony was alluding to, as to what these monitors are doing, what issues were at place when we were having those spikes, and the accuracy of the monitors at this time.
Well, how
I
long?
think we've tried to address that and posted it on the website for that purpose.
Thank you, Marguerite.
All right, so are you going to do any follow-up on this? I mean, I had heard there's going to be a review on the monitors, and then my point is, why wait? If they're going to come down, or they're going to get new monitors, do it now while we're exposed to it, not later.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure I understand before she sits down right now. As far as the monitors are concerned, your concern obviously is with the accuracy of the monitor themselves. Is that the whole issue? Because the fix that they put in there, you know, did help the situation out. Does it make them 100% accurate? no, it doesn't. It's my understanding that they're gonna put that fix in all of the,
That's correct.
They're hardwiring them all.
they're all
They haven't
hardwiring
already
walls,
done.
so, you know, they found the problem, but now they gotta proliferate that to all the other monitors that are out there.
There was really only one monitor. Well, 8 had a problem, they doubled up on that, they fixed that one right away, and 6. Those are the ones that were having the big spikes.
Right,
So they've already corrected them.
but if they're gonna make a firmware
That's
fix,
correct.
they should do that in all of them.
But they took care of the ones that were having an issue.
Either that or they probably end up going. I don't know. What I wanted to ask, just one last question, is the work is on there and the odors that are coming through, I thought there was like a rule that they have to pay a fine if there are odors that can harm the people. That's why the fine is there. So are we ignoring that?
We have a nuisance law.
Whatever it's called.
I guess this has come up before, and the question really is whether the township can find the NJDEP. And I think this question's
I mean,
come
they
up.
should go follow their workers and make sure they're doing what they have to, nothing's escaping when it shouldn't be, do the quicker job. So maybe that's why they fine them. So maybe you can look into that for us, that would be great.
Thank you. Excuse me. Anybody else in the public wish to be heard, please raise your hand. Yes, ma'am.
Kathy Hart, Summit Lane, Succothana. The first thing, you said that they're 99.5% accurate,
99.5, yeah.
so, but every time we see a spike, we're told that it wasn't an accurate reading.
That's taken into account. You have to
There's been a
understand,
lot of
there's
spikes and
hundreds of
everybody,
thousands, every minute, those machines are taking hundreds and thousands of readings. So over time, when you.
it seems
when
like
go
you
back
never
and
say
look
they're inaccurate
and
when
you
they're
look at the spikes,
low,
and they
just
average them
when it's
out.
high. You know,
I can only
That's-
tell you the report that Mr. Groves gave me, and that report's posted on the website.
That's correct.
And he tallied the numbers. They had a statistician go through the numbers, and he
No,
was
I
actually
believe you
amazed.
that maybe they're that accurate, but it just seems to me every time somebody questions when there has been a spike, we're told that it's not an accurate reading, so it just seems a little odd that those are all the inaccuracies are on that side.
Well,
But-
I'd like to say,
Because we have secondary protocols too.
exactly, and in addition to that, when they went in and they did the work to the monitor 6, which was the one that was predominantly giving us the high spikes, it ceased since then.
Well, I can tell you, tonight I was driving here and on Route 80, I smelt it.
I'm not
On
talking,
Howard Boulevard, I'm just telling you that whatever your monitors say, I don't know what they ever said as far as tonight. And I've seen posts on Facebook, like Shannon had said she woke up in her house gagging from the rotten egg smell this week. So there's still a problem going on here. And since Marguerite had mentioned that they're not installing the new oxidizer or whatever, scrubber, for a while, I would ask if you would again go to the DEP and ask for a stack test to be done, because obviously we're breathing stuff, and they keep saying that they're going to do it when they put in the new oxidizer. So are you willing to go to the DEP and say that you
Yes,
are
I'll-
having
I'll-
complaints?
Absolutely.
I'll follow up on that.
But will you
Yes.
let us know, because the one thing you know, said to Bill about how he didn't have factual information, but we come here all the time and ask questions, and then we just don't get the answer. So, you know, we can only go by things we read online or things we read in the paper. We would love if we could come here and you could post a bunch of facts, but we don't get that. So I would say that I would like you to go, you know, immediately to the DEP, ask them for the stack test.
We just got, I think, 2 days ago, information from one stack test at the site.
So they're doing
Provided.
them, they're just
They're
not
doing it,
releasing the
yeah.
information?
They're definitely doing it. They're
How
definitely doing it.
often are they doing them?
I don't know, but we just got them, and I gave them to Bob Zelli, and Bob looked at the report, and in fact, at that particular test, and I don't have the exact time and the exact date of when the test was done, because we just got it the other day, and Bob just got back to me tonight, actually. There was 0 parts per billion of H2S coming out of the stack, and 0 VOCs, volatile organic compounds. coming
Do
out of
they
the stack.
submit these
Before
to
we
the
get- Before we get
EPA?
into a great deal, because not everybody's had a chance to really look
I
and review
understand,
those.
Mayor, that's why I'm
I just-
saying.
I just don't want to open up, a door, but yes,
But-
we'll get that
Well, will
posted as
those be
quickly as
made
possible.
public? Those
Yeah.
will be
Yes,
made
well,
public?
as soon as
Okay.
we
Yeah.
verify everything.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the other thing that came out of it, which I didn't realize, but Bob has traced it down, is that they not only have a monitor on the stack that measures this stuff, but they also have the handheld monitors, so that if the stack reading is off, they verify it with a handheld. So, it is getting done. Do we have the information? No, you're absolutely right.
But we should
And-
have the
and-
information.
And one of the things that both Bob recommended, and I know the mayor and Chris and I have been asking for, is to get them regularly, just like they give us the soil that they're bringing in, the soil samples.
Right. Is that
Now-
something that they submit to the EPA? Because I thought stack tests were part of the clean air.
I don't believe
I
that.
yeah, I couldn't answer
I'm
that.
not
I'd have to
positive.
ask Bob, Bob Zelli, I don't
Well,
know.
could you find that out?
Yeah,
Because
sure.
I'd be interested to hear that. And I just had one other thing that it occurred to me when I saw your policemen here and town employees, and I'm not familiar really with OSHA regulations, but I was wondering if that's, if you're required to let the people know what they're being exposed to who are working in this town, and if you're required to, are you doing it?
I believe that came up earlier in comments and questions several months ago.
Very early in the process, we had a series of meetings with the staff and went over that, went over the OSHA and whatnot, and
No, I meant the requirements.
that's what I'm saying, and the OSHA requirements are vastly higher numbers than anything that you're seeing out at that facility at this time.
But OSHA generally is a short-term exposure though, right? And this being a long-term exposure, is there a data on what they should be allowed to
Our
have?
staff went over that with them through our safety protocol and our safety programs. At earlier meetings, they did do that.
Okay.
Thank you. Would anybody else in the public wish to be heard? Please raise your hand. Yes, ma'am.
Marion Emery, Canal Street, Ledgewood. I would like to know if there's nothing coming out of stack and there's nothing being emitted anywhere. Why are we all sick? Why are we smelling it? Why are our eyes being watery? Why are we having our asthma attacks? Why is all this going on if nothing is being emitted from Fenimore?
I don't believe anybody up here says nothing's coming from Fenimore. What we're trying to do in the DEP, or working with the DEP, is trying to identify whenever there is anything dangerous so it can be addressed.
But you're not doing that. We have been doing this for a long time now. We have been doing this for years now. We've been playing this game. We have been playing games with our
There's
lives.
no game here.
Well, that's what it seems like. It seems like a
Not at
game.
all.
And this is our lives. Somebody has got to do something, and it needs to get done now. Because people's lives are getting affected, and they're not getting affected in little ways.
We take it very seriously. We have since day one. We've probably exceeded as far as we can go with where we even have jurisdiction. So we've done everything that we possibly can to get to where we are now, which is a lot better than where we were 3 years ago. And it doesn't mean everything's perfect. But it's not a game. It's very important to everybody up here. And the amount of time and energy and a lot of other things have gone into this for the very concern for our residents. That's been #1 job for everybody here.
It just feels like with the answers we get when we come here, every time we come here, it's the same song and dance.
No, it's your questions that should be probably given to, the question should be given to another entity, but that entity's not here. We are.
And
So we try to ascertain those questions, those answers and/or questions to get them answered, and then try to supply that information to you, as we have been for the last couple of years, on our website.
thank you.
Thank you.
No, I've been taking copious notes on this right here. So there's a lot of things that we need to get back on. You know, there was the issue of posting why the larger oxidizer. I think we had that in a post, and we gotta get that out.
It was an
Okay?
NJDEP update.
It was.
It wasn't even that long ago.
It wasn't long, but we gotta, if it's not there, we gotta get it out. The second thing is, why is it delayed? You know, I mean, why is it taking a little bit longer than expected to get the new oxidizer in? So that's question 2. You know, what happened with the sponge technology? You know, I do remember, you know, that was one of the options. I don't know whether or not they're looking to do that, but we do need to get back on an answer in that. We need to post the stack test results, and I have a few others that I'll go with you later. So let's see if we can get those out there as quickly as possible.
Great, thank you. Anybody else in the public wish to be heard on anything? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll close the public portion and move on to reports of council liaisons, representatives, council committee.
I was just curious, what amount are you talking about spending?
Well, there's
for
two.
Ellicott?
Well, one's the one that's reimbursed by the state, and then Zelly, it's a general contract. It's not,
It's
that
not
may go
first.
up to that amount of money,
Right.
not necessarily to spend that amount of money.
What's the amount that it may go up to?
No, that amount you see there is what the proposal is. That is,
The
No, I don't see an amount.
Emilcott is
up there.
360,000,
Okay,
and Mr. Zelli's is 180,000.
thank you.
okay. And we're basically on the hook for that if the state doesn't reimburse us?
No, the state is reimbursing the Emilcott. Zelly is the one that, anything that we're paying him to do, we would have to pay him to do. But that's not, we're not authorizing,
But we have a lawsuit against
Yes.
SCP and its owners for damages.
they're involved in our
Which
litigation as well.
they're gonna be bankrupt by the time you get there, so it's gonna be an empty deal, right? So the state doesn't have to pay us for any of that?
We're chasing down their bank accounts and everything else.
For the litigation?
For any of these expenses, I mean, this was all brought on us by the state, and so I don't see why
As we've
anybody
said
in
many
this
times, we
town.
continue to
should-
ask on every front. We've gotten a few places, like with the monitoring. But we have been fairly unsuccessful in other areas. Doesn't mean we stop, and we still have requested, so.
Are we able to sue the state for those expenses? For things that they deny us, are we able to sue them? I mean, none of us ever asked for this to
It's
come
really
here.
asking for a legal opinion in an open public session, and it's really not appropriate for me to answer that, unfortunately.
Where could I get an answer to that?
Huh?
Where could I get an answer to that?
I guess,
I mean, we're the people
I'll have
who
a
are
con-
gonna be
I'll have a
getting the
conversation-
bill.
I'll have a conversation with my client, and if my client wishes to, which is the council, wishes to.
Aren't we also your
Yeah.
client because we're ultimately paying the bill?
No, it's the mayor and council and my clients.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public wish to be heard? Please raise your hand. Yes, sir.
Bill Morocco, Lazarus Drive in Ledgewood, just a few things I didn't have time to cover last time. One thing that concerns me is, and I witnessed this personally at Shannon's house, there seems to be times when the odors come, the monitors are rock steady. Then the odors go away, they come, and the monitors are rock steady. I can't explain it. I don't know if anyone could explain that. But to me, that's a concern. You know, are we smelling H2S? Is it something else? Is it something we could look into?
That's what we've said that we would do that. I think we've done it in the past. And if we get anything, we'll bring it forward and post it. That's what we've been doing.
Okay. And the other thing I wanted to ask is, I know there was a court ruling where over the emergency order that the DEP had used to take over the site. And as a result of that ruling, does that give us any additional leeway to do our own testing on the site, now that they don't have explicit control of it?
Yeah, the judge didn't take control away from the DEP. He said that procedurally, they hadn't followed, let me back up. When the DEP issued the executive order, they did it based on conditions prior to the law taking effect. And the judge said, you can't issue an order based on something prior to the law giving you the right to do that. So it was really a technicality, and what he did is he remanded it back to the Superior Court for them to put on the requisite proofs to meet that criteria. So he didn't really, believe me, if he would have taken jurisdiction away from the NJDEP, he would have had an SCP back there right now at the site. So he never took jurisdiction away from the DEP. He just said, you have to go back to the Superior Court and put on the necessary proofs as required by the law after the law was enacted.
And if they can't come in with those proofs, then...
There is way more than enough, in my opinion, to cover those proofs.
Okay. And the last thing is a stack test, and I know this is something that, you know, we've been kind of beating a dead horse over, but you have to understand, we've been asking for these for over a year. And it seems that, okay, the DEP gave us some information, that's great, it's a step forward, but, you know, we're really talking about somewhat of an independent stack test that covers all the points in Mr. Zelli's, you know, reports. And it's something that we were hoping that, you know, you would advocate for over this year. And
We have been advocating, as you know, and we continue to advocate, and this information would kind of caught us by surprise. So this is...
Well, this information came as a result of another request that Chris sent.
well, I mean, just so I'm clear, because maybe we're underappreciating you, but define advococate. I mean, what do you do?
We asked for the stack test, Bill.
From the commissioner on down.
We asked for the stack test, and I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 days ago, Chris asked the question, and then they finally came back with a result, and they said, oh, by the way, here are some results of the stack test. And the response is like, well, why didn't you give us this a long time ago? What the hell's going on here?
Now, it's new information to me, or us, generally, and Bob Zelli just put together a report. So I don't know how encompassing this test is, you know, to your point, but that's what we need to find out. But at least we have something more than we had before, and to advocating, we've been advocating all along. How you want to perceive advocating is, you know.
I mean, Chris has sent
You, but there's countless emails, phone
countless
calls.
emails
Phone calls,
to Ed
emails.
Putnam asking for this stuff over and over and over again.
I mean, you have to look at how it looks to us that for some reason they don't want to do this a complete stack test, and now all of a sudden we hear, for some reason, and no one here could tell me why, you said you're going to find out, they have to replace the equipment. And I know you're saying don't assume things, but it leads one to believe that there's a reason why they need that equipment, and they don't want to do a test and publish those results before that happens.
But you can't go down that road until we get that answer, and that's what we'll get, or at least we'll attempt to get it. You know, and again, it's my understanding that the reason they have this other backup equipment coming in is to extract more gas out of the landfill, to get it to a point of closure quicker.
To expedite.
Yeah, to expedite.
That's what was told, because if you remember, and you were around the beginning, Bill, in the beginning, they talked about the plume of gas that was in the site already.
Right.
Forget about what was being churned out the whole time and continued to get wet and everything else.
Right.
There was a plume of it in there that was, you know, according to everybody's calculations, including our professionals, was quite large. So
Correct.
where does that stand today? I don't know, that plume.
And the other thing that I think everybody has to understand is the weather. And I know that because I saw the email from Bob Zelli, that where the DEP has said, look, we acknowledge we're running behind. The weather is killing us out here. You know, we haven't been able to operate at the site like we thought we would on certain days because of the ice and the rain and the snow. So, you know, I think Conti, he said, was like 90% or 90-some% complete now. 91%, I think the last email was, that they're 91% complete. So, you know, they're getting there, but weather like we've had over the last couple of weeks certainly slows them down.
Just one last thing for Fred, when you have a second. I haven't been in touch. Have you gotten any updates on the ATSDR on the progress of the report?
No, I have not, and we should follow up again on that very shortly. I'll get that down also. I'm actually typing all the questions as we're going along here. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public wishing to be heard on any issue, please raise your hand. Yes, sir.
Fred, can you add something to that list?
What's the question?
Typing away. About discussing water tests up there? Because we still can't fix, you said maybe there was other tests done since 2013, but by you guys.
Yeah, there's been a number of tests done on private wells in the area in 2014.
But nothing at the basin or in the streams.
And I'd have to go back and look, because we did sediment in the basins, we did the streams.
Right. That was January 2013. So can we do more testing down there?
It's a possibility, but I know that.
I thought we remanded that back to the Environmental Commission.
There was from what I understand, the Raritan Headwaters Association did a chemical test. At the time they did their last test, Angela did it. We've asked for the results. We haven't gotten them from her yet.
Okay.
So as soon as we get them, we'll pass them out. I don't know what they are.
Yeah,
I haven't seen them.
we've never shied away from doing any type of testing before, Bob.
Well, no, I know that, but it's been 2 years now since you guys have done any testing, and I know the DEP has done some testing, but I'm not even sure what that is and the details of it. And I had also mentioned at the last meeting of doing an air grab or air sampling, since people are still having problems here. They're still complaining that there's issues. I know you can't really do the test on site, but you can certainly do it at the gates. You know, if the wind was blowing that way, you can do an air grab. An air grab is 10 seconds of time, and you can send it and see if there's something in the air. Because it would make the residents feel a lot better knowing if there is something there or if there's not something there. And it's a very simple test. You could also do a suma canister, which we did. And we found, stuff coming out of there, and that was before the oxidizer in Scarborough. So if that could be added to the list to talk about, that'd be wonderful, because they're not that expensive. We did them ourselves.
We'll take a note, maybe we can run it past Ellie.
Is there any, this is kind of a two-part question. Why isn't Fenimore on the agenda anymore? Why don't we get an update anymore, other than us asking questions? And were there any updates from the court proceedings or anything going on there?
And there's no update from the court proceeding,
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question. We
Why
update you every week. If there's something to update, otherwise we'll say that there's not anything.
The last two meetings, what has happened in history here, and I'm just going by history, is Fenimore was always on the agenda. You guys gave an update, and then the residents sat here and came up and asked questions. And for the last two meetings, all of a sudden, Fenimore is not on the agenda, and there's been no updates, and we've been asking the questions.
It hasn't been on the agenda all year, I don't think.
I might have missed a few meetings, and that's certainly possible, but is there any reason why it's not on the agenda?
Because we go into our budget season and everything like that, and it became and we're doing the questioning during the regular public session. Some people were not bringing up questions because they thought it was all Fenimore. The public, general public, people that come here, some of the people that you see here at a lot of meetings.
Right, the one gentleman always asks.
Well, there's several, but, so we just wanted to crunch them together so everybody realized, and that's why you always hear me say questions on any issues.
Right, but why was Fenimore removed from the agenda?
It's, you mean physically removed, like just the word Fenimore?
Well, yeah, I mean, in the update, because that was like an update that happened, and I'm just going by the last two meetings, and and there have been updates because the staff test came up, which Mr. Bucco, told us about. So there was an update. That's a pretty important thing that we've been asking for a year, and it didn't come out until we actually started asking questions. Which means if we weren't here asking questions, we would have never known.
Actually, that's not accurate, because Mr. Hall could tell you himself, because he asked me as we walked in. The problem is this information came in late. Not everybody had a chance to even look at it. They knew it was there. That's what Mr. Barron's was showing me, the information on it. And I didn't have authority from legal counsel whether I can mention what's going on with that yet or not. He signs off on everything. So there's a legal aspect to it. And as soon as, we looked at each other, and he says, yeah, and Chris is like, yeah, and then they announced the report, because that's what we need. We need them to sign off on it from a legal aspect, not because of you, but because of the litigation it's in with the property owner, and things like that. So we want to make sure that our ducks are in a row, so we don't hurt our case, ours in the collective, meaning you and us,
Absolutely.
our case against the property owner. So we're always going to err on a certain side.
And I understand that. My point is that for the last 2 meetings, which is the last month, there hasn't been an update that has been given to you, to us, before we ask and is that going to be standard procedure now?
I think it depends. If we have information that we're going to have at the time of the update, we'll make sure it's on the agenda. We haven't always had those updates, so, but it doesn't preclude us from bringing anything up. As you know, we
Because
bring
you
it
set
up
the
constantly.
agenda before every meeting, so.
And if we have an update, we would do that. We've also talked about this at length, is that really to disseminate the information for a lot of residents is to post it on the website and
Correct.
Facebook. So a lot of information is getting posted there.
Right.
And as you
And we
know,
check.
Correctly,
and
where
you
we
check it on a regular
prefer,
basis.
where we prefer to get it out there first because it can be seen by everybody before.
The meeting.
But-
Yeah, today there was some,
Sorry, go ahead.
there was something to be, we did update you on the stack test, but we've gone several meetings where there hasn't been anything to update.
Correct. There hasn't been an issue.
So in the last month, basically, there was nothing that
Your
had
phone
happened.
appeared the last time on the 6th of this month. The 6th of January was the last time it appeared on the agenda.
As a
And I
formal
was-
item, it's discussed, as you know, at every meeting.
Right, that's why I was wondering, because it's been, like I said, for the last month,
So can you say anything?
and that's why I was asking.
Anything else? Well, thank you, Bob. Anybody else in the public wish to be heard? Please raise your hand. Yes, ma'am.
Marguerite Gargiulo, Lincoln Drive, Flanders. I just wanted to find out, Fred, if you have the statement that I made about requesting a fee for the odor complaint.
I just sent a list of
I didn't hear
contacts
you
over to
say
Chris.
that, and I know last time we were able to collect money. And it also keeps it in
Not from
line.
DEP, not from the DEP. We were able to find the property owner, SEP. This is a different scenario, but we'll ask. This
Well,
is-
actually, who did the DEP hire? Is that the DEP themselves, or did they hire someone just like
Well,
SEP?
they're working for DEP, so
Right.
they're an extension of DEP.
Right, and so I think they can be,
No, they're an extension of DEP.
So your question is there?
so that means that they have to be responsible. They have to.
So
If they have the odor
Like I said,
complaint
that's
and it's
why
a
we're
legal
gonna-
thing, they have to be responsible. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna ask the question regardless.
I'm sorry, Reed?
No, I thought you were originally talking about SCP, and obviously we took them to local court.
Yeah, I was
And-
just
and the
curious
extent of
because-
those fees, I believe, are, really, Mr.
$70,000
About $70,000 worth of fees were
No, it's a
assessed
lot.
against SCP.
Yeah.
But your question is not about the SCP.
No, it's about trying to keep the workers and the construction people, everybody working the way they should so nothing escapes and that they're not doing any sloppy work over there, because I understand that that's also another way that we could get exposure. So that's why they do, because I mean, they have to, when they're working is when they have all the problems. So that's why they have the fines, so anything could be happening on that site, and that'll keep them in line. So that's just my thoughts.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public wish to be heard? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll close the public portion. We do have an executive session.
We're gonna talk about Middlestat, Louisville, Local 97, and Roxbury.
Yes. What was the first two you said?
Middlestat versus the Township, which is litigation. Louisville versus the Township, which is litigation. Local 97, which is contract negotiations, and Roxwood versus the Township, which is litigation.
And Fenimore litigation.
Fenimore?
I don't think it's an issue. I might not state that.
Okay.